Imagine a decade that didn't just change the world, it changed how we see it. The 1960s was a golden era for TV, producing legends that ruled the airwaves then and still dominate streaming today. From high-stakes espionage to the final frontier, these shows became the blueprints for modern television. Today, we're counting down the heavy hitters that stood the test of time. This is the 1960s TV Power List. 10 iconic shows that ruled the airwaves. Let's get started. Number 10. Mission Impossible. 1966 to 1973. Mission Impossible was a groundbreaking espionage drama that redefined television action in the late 1960s, centered on the covert Impossible Missions Force IMF. The series followed a team of highly skilled operatives assigned to neutralize dictators, crime syndicates, corrupt officials, and international threats. Each episode began with a secret recorded message outlining the mission, followed by the now famous warning that the tape would self-destruct in 5 seconds. From there, viewers watched an intricate plan unfold, often involving impersonations, staged betrayals, psychological manipulation, and carefully timed deceptions, rather than straightforward combat. The series initially featured team leader Dan Briggs, played by Stephen Hill. After the first season, leadership transitioned to Jim Phelps, portrayed by Peter Graves, whose calm authority became central to the show's identity. A key member of the team was Master of Disguise Roland Hand, brought to life by Martin Landau, whose character specialized in elaborate impersonations. Technical wizard Barney Collier, played by Greg Morris, handled electronics and surveillance, while other specialists rotated in depending on the mission's demands. The show emphasized precision, teamwork, and suspenseful pacing, often unfolding like a chess match between the IMF and its target. Airing on CBS, Mission Impossible ran for 7 seasons, from 1966 to 1973, becoming one of the most sophisticated and influential spy dramas of its era. Did you know? The iconic theme by Lalo Schifrin was written in 5/4 time, an unusual meter chosen to create tension. The show's intricate plotting influenced later spy dramas and ultimately launched a blockbuster film franchise decades later. Number 9. The Fugitive. 1963 to 1967. The Fugitive was one of the most gripping, dramatic series of the 1960s. Blending crime procedural storytelling with emotional character study, the show centers on Dr. Richard Kimble, a respected physician who is wrongly convicted of murdering his wife. Kimble insists the real killer was a mysterious one-armed man, but before he can prove it, he is sentenced to death. After a train accident allows him to escape custody, Kimble begins a cross-country journey to find the real murderer while evading capture. Each episode follows a compelling structure. Kimble, using an alias, arrives in a new town, finds temporary work, and becomes involved in the lives of strangers, often helping them through moral or personal crises. Just as stability seems possible, his past catches up with him, forcing him to flee once more. This format allowed the series to function both as a suspense thriller and a human drama. David Janssen delivers a powerful performance as Richard Kimble, portraying him as intelligent, compassionate, and quietly tormented. In relentless pursuit is Lieutenant Philip Gerard, played by Barry Morse, a determined lawman driven not by malice, but by duty and respect for the justice system. Their cat-and-mouse dynamic forms the backbone of the series. Airing on ABC, The Fugitive ran for 4 seasons, from 1963 to 1967, and became one of the most highly regarded and influential dramas of its decade. Did you know? The 1967 finale drew over 70 million viewers, roughly half the television audience in America at the time, making it one of the most watched television events ever. Streets reportedly emptied during its broadcast. Number 8. I Dream of Jeannie. 1965 to 1970. I Dream of Jeannie was a light-hearted fantasy sitcom that combined domestic comedy with magical mischief. The series begins when astronaut Captain Tony Nelson is stranded on a deserted island after a failed space mission. There, he discovers a mysterious bottle containing a 2,000-year-old Jeannie. Upon freeing her, Jeannie immediately falls in love with Tony and insists on serving him. Following him back to Florida near Cape Kennedy, Though Tony tries to live a normal, respectable life as a NASA officer, Jeannie's impulsive use of magic constantly creates chaos that he must quickly cover up. The show thrives on the tension between Tony's desire for order and Jeannie's affectionate, but unpredictable attempts to please him. Much of the humor comes from magical misunderstandings, sudden disappearances and puffs of smoke, and elaborate complications that spiral out of control before being neatly resolved. Barbara Eden stars as Jeannie, bringing charm and playful innocence to the role, while Larry Hagman plays Captain Tony Nelson as the exasperated but ultimately caring master. Bill Daly appears as Major Roger Healy, Tony's best friend, whose curiosity about Jeannie often leads to further trouble. Eden Rourke portrays Dr. Alfred Bellows, the NASA psychiatrist who repeatedly suspects something strange is happening. Airing on NBC, I Dream of Jeannie ran for 5 seasons from 1965 to 1970, becoming one of television's most iconic fantasy comedies of the decade. Did you know? The show was initially filmed in black and white despite its fantasy theme. It switched to color in later seasons as networks pushed color broadcasting to compete for audiences and advertisers. Number 7. Star Trek, 1966 to 1969. Star Trek was a visionary science fiction series that pushed the boundaries of what television could explore. Set in the 23rd century, the show follows the crew of the starship USS Enterprise on a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and new civilizations, and boldly go where no one has gone before. Blending action, philosophical debate, and social commentary, the series used futuristic settings to examine contemporary issues such as war, racism, political ideology, and human identity. Each episode typically places the Enterprise crew in a moral or diplomatic crisis involving alien cultures, advanced technology, or cosmic phenomena. Rather than relying solely on combat, the stories often revolve around negotiation, ethical dilemmas, and scientific problem-solving. The show's optimistic tone emphasized cooperation, diversity, and the belief that humanity could evolve beyond its current conflicts. William Shatner stars as Captain James T. Kirk, a bold yet thoughtful leader, balancing instinct with responsibility. Leonard Nimoy portrays Mr. Spock, the half-human, half-Vulcan science officer whose logic-driven perspective provides contrast and depth. DeForest Kelley plays Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, the ship's compassionate chief medical officer. The bridge crew also includes Uhura, Sulu, and Scotty, each contributing to the ship's operations. Airing on NBC, Star Trek ran for 3 seasons, from 1966 to 1969. Though ratings were modest during its original run, the series became one of the most influential and enduring franchises in television history. Did you know? Though ratings were modest during its NBC run, a massive letter-writing campaign by fans helped secure a 3rd season. Syndication later transformed it into a global franchise spanning films and spin-offs. Number 6. Gunsmoke, 1955 to 1975. Gunsmoke was one of television's most enduring and respected Western dramas, set in the rough frontier town of Dodge City, Kansas, during the late 19th century. Unlike many earlier Westerns that focused heavily on fast-draw action, Gunsmoke emphasized character-driven storytelling, moral conflict, and the harsh realities of frontier justice. Each episode typically centered on a conflict brought into town, whether a violent outlaw, a land dispute, or a personal tragedy. With the town's marshal forced to balance law, fairness, and compassion in a volatile environment, James Arness stars as Marshal Matt Dillon, a steady, principled lawman whose quiet authority anchors the series. Rather than portraying him as a flawless hero, the show presents Dillon as thoughtful and sometimes burdened by the weight of his decisions. Amanda Blake plays Miss Kitty Russell, the strong-willed owner of the Long Branch Saloon, who serves as Dillon's close confidant and emotional support. Milburn Stone appears as Dr. Galen Doc Adams, the town's blunt but caring physician, and Ken Curtis portrays Festus Hagen, providing both loyalty and moments of humor. Airing on CBS, Gunsmoke ran for 20 seasons from 1955 to 1975, making it one of the longest-running primetime dramas in American television history and a defining Western of the 1960s. Did you know? It was the #1 show in the 1960 to 1961 season. Originally a radio drama, Its transition to television helped cement the Western as the dominant genre of early 1960s primetime. We're halfway through our countdown. If you're enjoying the video so far, please take a moment to hit the like button and smash that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and lets us keep bringing you more classic TV content like this. Now, let's get back to the countdown and see which legendary shows take the top spots. Number 5. Bewitched, 1964 to 1972. Bewitched was a clever and charming fantasy sitcom that blended suburban domestic life with magical mayhem. The series centers on Samantha Stevens, a beautiful and powerful witch who falls in love with, and marries a mortal advertising executive, Darren Stevens, determined to live as a typical suburban housewife. Samantha promises to suppress her magical abilities. However, her eccentric witch family, particularly her meddlesome mother Endora, constantly interferes, creating supernatural complications that disrupt Darren's professional and personal life. Much of the comedy arises from Darren's desperate attempts to maintain normalcy while magical chaos unfolds around him. Samantha's twitch of her nose becomes the show's signature gesture, instantly transforming situations in unexpected ways. Beneath the humor, the series subtly explores themes of conformity, identity, and acceptance, reflecting cultural tensions of the 1960s. Elizabeth Montgomery stars as Samantha, bringing warmth, intelligence, and quiet strength to the role. Dick York originally portrayed Darren Stevens, emphasizing his flustered frustration and comedic timing. Due to health issues, he was later replaced by Dick Sargent. Agnes Moorehead delivers a standout performance as Endora, Samantha's glamorous and disapproving mother, whose disdain for mortals fuels many storylines. David White appears as Larry Tate, Darren's demanding boss. Airing on ABC, Bewitched ran for 8 seasons, from 1964 to 1972, becoming one of the most popular and iconic sitcoms of its era. Did you know? The show tackled themes of conformity and identity beneath its comedy. The mid-series recasting of Darren became one of television's most famous and debated actor replacements. Number 4. The Twilight Zone, 1959 to 1964. The Twilight Zone was a groundbreaking anthology series that redefined television storytelling through science fiction, fantasy, and psychological suspense. Created and hosted by Rod Serling, the show opened each week with his calm yet ominous narration, inviting viewers into a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. Every episode presented a self-contained story, often featuring ordinary people placed in extraordinary and frequently unsettling circumstances. The series explored themes of paranoia, prejudice, war, conformity, technology, and the fragility of human nature. Stories ranged from alien invasions and time travel to dystopian futures and ironic supernatural twists. What set the show apart was its moral undercurrent. Many episodes concluded with a powerful lesson or a shocking reversal that lingered long after the credits rolled. The writing was sophisticated, often serving as allegory for contemporary social issues during a tense period in American history. Because it was an anthology, the cast changed weekly, though many prominent actors made appearances throughout its run. Serling himself remained the constant presence, serving as narrator and creative force behind many scripts. Airing on CBS, The Twilight Zone ran for 5 seasons, from 1959 to 1964, though ratings fluctuated. The series became one of the most influential programs in television history, shaping the science fiction and suspense genres for decades to come. Did you know? Serling used science fiction as a vehicle to address censorship-sensitive topics like racism, nuclear war, and authoritarianism during the Cold War era. Number 3. The Beverly Hillbillies, 1962 to 1971. The Beverly Hillbillies was a fish-out-of-water sitcom, became one of the biggest rating sensations of the 1960s. The series begins when the impoverished Clampett family, living in the Ozarks, accidentally strike oil on their land. Suddenly wealthy, they relocate to the upscale neighborhood of Beverly Hills, California, where their down-home manners and rural common sense hilariously clash with high society expectations. Much of the comedy comes from misunderstandings between the Clampetts and their sophisticated neighbors, bankers, and social climbers who underestimate them. Buddy Ebsen stars as Jed Clampett, the kind-hearted, level-headed patriarch whose simple wisdom often outshines the supposed refinement around him. Irene Ryan plays Granny, the fiery and outspoken family matriarch devoted to her mountain traditions and home remedies. Donna Douglas portrays Ellie Mae Clampett, sweet-natured and animal-loving, whose innocence contrasts with the materialism of Beverly Hills. Max Baer Jr. appears as Jethro Bodine, the well-meaning but dim nephew, constantly chasing unlikely career ambitions. Raymond Bailey and Nancy Culp round out the main cast as banker Milburn Drysdale and his socially ambitious secretary Jane Hathaway. Airing on CBS, the Beverly Hillbillies ran for 9 seasons, from 1962 to 1971. At its peak, it dominated the ratings and became a defining example of 1960s rural-themed television comedy. Did you know? Its premiere ranked among the highest-rated half-hour debuts ever, and it held the #1 spot for 2 consecutive seasons in the early 1960s. Number 2, Bonanza. 1959 to 1973. Bonanza was a landmark Western drama set in the 1860s on the massive Ponderosa Ranch near Virginia City, Nevada. Premiering at the dawn of the 1960s television boom, the series blended frontier action with strong family storytelling. Rather than focusing solely on gunfights and outlaws, the show emphasized moral dilemmas, community responsibility, the bonds between a father and his sons. Episodes frequently explored issues such as justice, prejudice, land rights, and personal honor, giving the series a depth that resonated with a broad audience. The sweeping outdoor cinematography and memorable theme song also helped establish its epic feel. At the heart of the story is Ben Cartwright, portrayed by Lorne Greene, a widowed rancher and firm but compassionate patriarch determined to guide his sons with wisdom and integrity. His eldest son, Adam Cartwright, played by Pernell Roberts, is intelligent, educated, and sometimes quietly conflicted about ranch life. Eric Haas Cartwright, brought to life by Dan Blocker, is the physically imposing yet gentle middle son known for his kindness and loyalty. The youngest, Joseph Little Joe Cartwright, portrayed by Michael Landon, is passionate, impulsive, and often at the center of emotionally driven storylines. Airing on NBC, Bonanza ran for 14 seasons, from 1959 to 1973. It's becoming one of the longest-running and most successful Western series in television history. Did you know? NBC deliberately filmed Bonanza in color from the beginning to promote RCA color television sales. NBC and RCA were corporate siblings under NBC's parent company. As more Americans bought color sets in the mid-1960s, Bonanza's vivid outdoor scenery became a major visual draw, helping it dominate Sunday nights for years. Number 1. The Andy Griffith Show, 1960 to 1968. The Andy Griffith Show was a warm and character-driven sitcom set in the fictional small town of Mayberry, North Carolina, blending gentle humor with heartfelt storytelling. It's a series focused on everyday life in a close-knit Southern community where common sense and kindness usually won the day. Episodes often revolved around minor crises, misunderstandings, romantic troubles, civic dilemmas, or lessons in responsibility, all resolved with a mix of homespun wisdom and subtle comedy. The show's relaxed pacing and emphasis on moral lessons gave it a timeless, comforting appeal. At the center is Sheriff Andy Taylor, played by Andy Griffith, a widowed father who enforces the law with patience and understanding rather than force. His young son, Opie Taylor, portrayed by Ron Howard, frequently learns life lessons under his father's steady guidance. Don Knotts delivers one of television's most memorable comedic performances as Deputy Barney Fife, Andy's nervous and overly confident deputy whose blunders provide much of the show's humor. Frances Bavier appears as Aunt Bee, Andy's caring housekeeper and maternal figure in the Taylor household. Airing on CBS, The Andy Griffith Show ran for 8 seasons, from 1960 to 1968, and remains one of television's most beloved classic sitcoms. Did you know? The show finished its final season ranked number 1 in the Nielsen ratings. Unlike many series that declined before cancellation, it voluntarily ended at peak popularity, a rare achievement in television history. That's our countdown of the 10 icons that defined a generation. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these 60s classics is your all-time favorite? Or did we leave your top pick off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you loved this trip back in time, hit that like button and subscribe to Amazing Fun Facts for more deep dives into your favorite history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.